Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and we are on location today at the offices of Prodisee Pantry, and we're honored to have as our guest today Deann Servos, and she is Executive Director and one of the founders of Prodisee Pantry. And so, Deann, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I got to ask this. I was telling Carrie, our producers, we drove up. I've heard of Prodisee Pantry for years, know what you guys do, but I was shocked at the scale and the size of this operation when I pulled up to your location here in Spanish Fort. So tell me a little bit about the vision that you and two other ladies had to form Prodisee Pantry and the need that you saw. And I mean, how did this whole organization come about?
Well, it started over lunch. So How ironic is that this food pantry started at my kitchen table with a bunch of ladies, and we realized that there were hungry people in our community, and what could we do to solve that problem? We did not see the scope and the size that we've become today. Yeah. But 15 years ago, we let our hands off and let God lead the program to become what it is today, a community ministry that feeds 14,000 family visits on a normal year.
Wow.
Over the last 17 years, we've impacted probably 400,000 individuals with food. So we're not a small food pantry. Our name makes us think small, but pantries feed people. We provide food, fresh produce to anyone who needs it in Baldwin County. We're one of the largest emergency food pantries in the entire Gulf Coast region. No one would think that we're located in Baldwin County.
Right. This is a leadership podcast, and so we've done 80-something episodes, and one of the things that keeps coming up when we talk about a good leader is the vision. So obviously you guys had a vision of what the need was and then how you could meet that need. So talk about just the process of deciding, okay, we're going to do this. I mean, I know it was over lunch around your kitchen table, but I mean, I got to think there's a little bit more to it, and coming up with the plan and a way to attack the need that you saw. How'd that work?
Well, a year before the lunch, there was conversations about creating a community center in Spanish Fort that would address all kinds of social service needs, a pharmacy, maybe a food pantry, early learning classes. It was a myriad of ideas, and nothing happened. So we got together and said, well, what can we do? We can take this small part. So we started researching food pantries and how they were run, and we took little bits from here, little bits from there, and melded our idea together that every family was important and every family had issues behind hunger that maybe could be addressed. So our approach was not a drive by, pick up food and move forward. We wanted to get to know you, to work with you, to figure out how we could solve some of the problems that had you seeking food in the first place. More a whole family approach. And so we prayed the first Tuesday that God would send families that needed our help. And that was Thanksgiving week of 2003. And here we are in 2020. And from the first week of 25 families to now upwards of, especially during COVID, 6, 7, 8,000 families because of the impact economically. So a normal year, a normal week, we would see 300 families, about 1,200 different families in a month. And we still actually fit with the model that we started with, except for times of disaster. And we've ridden the wave of disaster. We've seen everything from Hurricane Ivan to Katrina to the oil spill, the Great Recession, and now we have COVID under our belt. So our program is proud to say that we have led social service needs. So the most basic needs humans have are for food and to be recognized, that they're important, that you exist. Yeah. And we do that. I think our volunteers do that very well.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, so let's talk about COVID real quick. We can't ignore that elephant in the room. It's impacted, it seems like every podcast that we've recorded the last several weeks, it's impacted everyone, no matter what you do. If you're not for profit or if you're in business or, just whatever you do. I mean, it's everywhere. So how has that impacted your ability to serve that need? I mean, has it impacted your donations? I know obviously you've probably seen more demand for the services that you offer, but on the flip side, I mean, how has that impacted your volunteers and people that are able to come and help and distribute food. I mean, what has that been like the last few months?
Well, a pandemic is a people problem. We're at most risk. We're people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is impacting everything from medical to the economy to just health and well-being of your mental state. And so families are responding. Those that can financially help are helping. We've had folks donate their stimulus money that they got that they didn't need, which helps us help other families with the most basic thing of food. We were really surprised with the outpouring of help in the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
As it goes on longer, we'll see how things shake out. I mean, we've been able to make sure that we have food on site and continue to have food on site. We also believe that God's going to provide what we need to continue to do what we do. Yeah. Because hunger is an issue, whether it be physical, emotional, or spiritual, and that's what we address and we say we will address. So COVID-19 is making us address the whole picture in a whole different level. Social distancing isn't the same as giving someone a warm hug.
Right.
So we've had to adapt on that front. Putting food together socially distant is actually a unique process. We used to have 50 people filling food boxes as fast as we could. Now everything is spaced out, taking longer.
Yeah.
So our process is socially distant, slower, but in the end, our mission remains the same, and we're proud to say that we are fulfilling our mission.
Yeah, COVID has impacted every area of your life, but the one option that you don't have is to just give up and not feel that need. You've got to be able to adapt and innovate, which it sounds like you're doing, to be able to, because that need's not going anywhere, and obviously it's probably even increased over the last few months, and so you guys are doing a great job, obviously, of making sure that need is continued to be met.
Well, when we were deemed a critical resource, week 1 of the COVID disaster, we knew that we needed to figure it out and figure it out quickly, and we did. Yeah,
very good. So COVID-19 notwithstanding, let's talk a little bit about leadership, because, again, I'm just amazed at what you guys have done here. So, leader of this organization, tell me a little bit about your philosophy on leadership. What does a leader mean to you? What do you think when you hear that word? And maybe how has your leadership philosophy and the way that you lead changed over time, if at all?
In the early days, I led by example. I was in the trenches, putting food boxes, filling them, doing interviews with client families. But as our program has grown, I've had to learn how to delegate, which is really important because I now see how important it is, how it builds a self-esteem, gives new skills to people, or lets them use their skill that is their best skill to its best ability to help others. Yeah. It's very rewarding for folks to know that you count on them, and in turn, they will serve the community at their best level. Yeah.
Let me ask you about the vision of Prodisee Pantry, and I happen to know firsthand that you guys just underwent a strategic planning session with your board. So talk about the importance of that, and why did you decide that you needed to do that? What do you think is important about setting a path for the future, and what benefits have you seen from that exercise so far?
Well, a lot of people say, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. Prodisee Pantry has grown to a level where the community counts upon us to help solve the issue of hunger. It's a big issue. It can impact anyone, where many of us are one paycheck away from needing help. COVID and other disasters do show that really well in our community, how so many families live paycheck to paycheck. So our board of directors, I'm very proud of them for taking a look at where we are now. We have grown from a program that was stressed out by a $30,000 budget to a program that has a $1.5 million budget to provide healthy foods to any family in Baldwin County who needs it. So we're a big program, and we have to plan so that we can be prepared for something, a disaster that will happen should donations dry up. How are we going to be that critical need that is serving families if we haven't created a plan, a backup for ourselves? Right. So the board took a step back and said, what are we doing now? Where do we want to be in 5 years? What do we want people to know about us? And I think that taking a look at what your program does at the most basic thing and reviewing your mission. Are you on mission? Is your mission needing to change? And we've been around for 17 years. We picked a scripture as our mission statement. I'm very pleased that the board continues to let us be a community ministry and focus on Matthew 25:35. As the world changes, things need to change. Our processes have become more efficient and effective, safer than what we did way back in the little closet at the church we started at, to a huge warehouse where we're able to store what would normally be a 3-month supply of food. All of those things require more planning, more resources, more time. And our board of directors has realized that and wants to make sure that we're here for the next 15, 17, 30 years. As long as the community needs us, we would be here for that. So looking at it in 5-year chunks is really important.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, and I think you and I both probably are familiar with not-for-profit boards that really are just kind of board members entitled. They don't really do a whole lot, maybe not even go to a meeting, maybe once a year. But it sounds like your board is involved then, right? I mean, they're a working board, it sounds like. Is that correct?
We have a working board, and I think any healthy nonprofit needs a working board, a board that is involved in the fiduciary responsibilities. They understand what it means to take that seat. If you take a seat on a board and you don't attend meetings, you're not educated and you're not providing any support.
Right. Yeah.
And our board comes with different backgrounds. We love being able to get together and have a generative conversation about what is this going to look like? Or, do we need new siding on the building? Like all the little things that sometimes, and how are we going to fund that? And now the question is, how are we going to make up for the fundraisers that we haven't had yet? How are we going to make them look? So generative conversations, if you're not involved in your board and you're not a working board, it doesn't mean you have to be here volunteering on a Tuesday.
Right.
But it does mean that you attend board meetings, you read the information, you do a little research, you do your part. We have, from our visioning session, several teams that are looking at different parts of our vision, and they're getting together so that we can come together again as a board and discuss as a whole what and how much progress is made on what we're looking at so that we can lay out the next 5 and 10 year plan.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I'm not asking for trade secrets, but so as you look forward 5, 8, 10 years down the road, what is your perfect vision for what Prodisee Pantry will look like in that time frame?
Going back 5 years, it'll help look at what the next 5 years will look like.
Okay.
We put a push out to secure more fresh produce for families, locally sourced, healthy foods from local farmers. We have realized the win-win that is economically for our community. Farmers who we might have seen them or their staff sitting in our chairs on off seasons getting groceries are now benefiting because their product that potentially they could not sell somewhere else is now being provided to families. Those families are accessing healthy food much fresher than you even get at the grocery store. Often it's picked on Monday, delivered here Monday afternoon, and provided to our families on Tuesday morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, literally from the field to a table. So that's a proud moment that we recognized 5 years ago how important that would be. Last year, we were so pleased that we had 120 tons of just locally sourced produce. We have already so surpassed that this year because all the things that we put into place have come to fruition.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. What would that look like? Will we serve more families? Will we change what we're providing to them? What is that going to look like 5 years from now? And the board has been tasked to look at that. What will we have in our bank accounts in order to survive a disaster? These are key things, and I'm waiting to hear some of the results. I think it's exciting that the board of directors, I'm a founder and I'm passionate about what we do. I mean, food is love, and I believe that to my core.
Right. No
But
doubt.
I'm so excited that we have a board that is passionate about our mission, is taking a look at some of these big, difficult issues. I mean, if donors don't believe in what you're doing, you don't receive the funds you need to fulfill your mission.
Right.
Prodisee Pantry is very blessed that the community understands why we're here and what we're doing. But that can change. Nonprofits ride the wave of what's happening, and sometimes pet nonprofits are really high and everyone wants to donate them. Or maybe it's cancer funding. Different things come along and change what donors want to give to. So we recognize that, and we're looking at how will we be here 10 years from now? And how can we plan for that financially?
Right.
And so Prodisee Pantry will probably look very similar 5 years from now. Maybe there'll be a second one. These are all conversations that are in the air, but we wouldn't have them if we didn't do a vision planning.
Right. Going through a pandemic will force people to put a disaster plan at the top of their list. I don't think that any of us really 5 years thought we're going to have to plan for a pandemic. We've heard the word, but I don't think any of us realistically thought that would be something that we had to deal with. But it has forced people to plan, and I think that the fact that you guys are doing that means that you will definitely be around 5, 10 years from now for sure, which is great. So we asked you 3 qualities that you think someone needs to be a good leader. honesty, communication, and patience. So expand on those, and of those three, do you think one is maybe more important than the others?
I think if you're honest, then all the other pieces fall into place. Honesty's a good policy because if you're looking at someone who's coming to volunteer, you need to tell them what's honestly expected. If you don't, you're setting them up to fail. Yeah. It's the same thing for staff. If you don't tell them what you really need or why we're really doing something, then it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. But that also ties into communication, because if you have a clear message and you repeat that clear message the same way or adapt it to meet the needs of the person you're responding to, then that makes your mission clear as well. Mm-hmm. So it's about clarity and communication and honesty. But when you work with volunteers, that old saying, patience is a virtue, is really important because people want to help and you want to make it easy for them to help you. And a program like Prodisee Pantry is very volunteer labor intensive. Mm-hmm. I mean, we moved already this year almost 600 tons of groceries. So that was more than all of last year.
Oh, wow.
And if we didn't have volunteers that were dedicated with a small skeleton crew right now, doing more work than we did in the past with a lot more people, mm-hmm. then, you got to be patient. They are late. They come in wearing sandals when you say closed-toed shoes are required. There's a lot of things. It doesn't always happen as fast as you want it to happen. Or you just have to figure out how to pace yourself and be patient when someone isn't as responsive as a volunteer, because their heart is in the right place.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. You do rely on volunteers and their work to come in and help you guys. So what's a perfect volunteer look like? I mean, who are you looking for to come in and partner with you guys in your mission?
Well, there's a lot of perfect partners for us, but I'd say someone who puts the mission first. When they are at Prodisee Pantry, they are here because they really want to help other people. Mm-hmm. It's not about making themselves look good, not another thing for their resume. Right. It's because of the core in their heart. They understand that someone needs help, and that this is one way they can help.
Yeah.
Whether it's sweeping the floors, packing food, or being the person that says good morning, every one of those jobs is really important, but only if you put the people you're serving first.
Right. You really have to check your ego at the door.
Perfect. That's a great way to put it. If it's about your ego, you're not a great volunteer for us, because we are about making the other people who are coming in at a very vulnerable place understand that they too are important in our community.
Yeah, no doubt. That's great. I got to ask you this, not only Prodisee Pantry, but the owner of Lazy Daisy Farm in Stapleton. So, and I see that you got some sheep and stuff on here. So what goes on at Lazy Daisy Farm?
Well, it's my solitude. Okay. My husband and I took a leap of faith a few years back, and we really never thought that we would own a farm. And we did some research, and I thought I would raise goats. I thought, this is great. They're lawn mowers. You can eat them. There's a lot of things involved in that. And I woke up one day and said, we're going to have sheep. And I had no idea, but I got me some sheep, and we've been raising sheep. But it's very scriptural and it's very pastoral when you sit in a green pasture and you could watch sheep graze for hours. Mm-hmm. And it's very meditative. So I enjoy that. I enjoy sharing the farm with children. Mm-hmm. So many folks don't know where their food comes from or what it's like to just pick a chicken egg out of a box or scoop out sheep manure. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of jobs that happen that no one realizes. Right. I love having little kids come out and have pictures taken with lambs at Easter. It's just fun. Yeah. So it's a lot of work. But I find work meditative for me. It's stressful when you hear everyone else's problems and you're trying to help them with all of those. Yeah. This is a big stress release for us, is to be able to sit in the serenity. Lazy Daisy is because daisies are my favorite flower and they grow on my farm. But it's also a lazy day. You can relax and enjoy yourself.
Well, I might have to come visit Lazy Daisy Farm, Carrie. I mean, good gosh, that sounds wonderful. Well, and I got to ask this question too. So you graduated from Penn State. Mm-hmm. A broadcast journalist before you came down here. So how do you make the jump from broadcast journalist to the executive director of a very successful not-for-profit?
Well, God has a sense of humor. I really have never liked being in front of groups.
Okay.
I am super organized. I love looking at facts, and I like to write. Mm-hmm. And so, as a broadcast journalist, you talk to your camera. There aren't really people behind you. I love finding out about people. Mm-hmm. So interviewing people, I found that really fulfilling.
Yeah.
But, I got married. We started having children. My husband's got transferred. I moved here, raising our children. I was happy to do that. And then by default, I went to a meeting, and that was a year before the Pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I realized it was a place to be. I didn't think I'd be the executive director. I just thought I was going to be a volunteer and help. Goes back to way back in my childhood. I volunteered at a food bank as part of my Girl Scout Gold Award project. Didn't know that would ever come back to fruition. So God has a sense of humor and brought me full circle. I'm not afraid to talk, which allows us to promote what we're doing. So we have volunteers so that families that need us understand they can come. So I'm here because my husband got transferred, and I believe that God intended for us to be here. I have a hard time with the fact that Alabama oftentimes ranks 47th, 48th, 49th in diabetes, high blood pressure, hunger, all of those things. And if I can make a little difference and move us to 46th or 45th in this country, then I've had a huge impact with my life.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, sitting here, your passion is palpable. I mean, it is absolutely it just permeates everything that you say. I'm a firm believer, and after talking to you, I more so believe that in order to be an effective, even volunteer, but obviously someone who devotes their life to a not-for-profit, you've got to have that passion. You can't just halfway do it, right? I mean, it just doesn't work.
Now, I've met executive directors in nonprofits who really want to help people, but sometimes their passion doesn't line up with what they really want to do. And I do believe that when you find the right place, then yes, it's work. Don't get me wrong, it's work. But I don't mind doing the work because I can see the impact. It's something you can't see anywhere else. But when I see people and I know that they were here and I now see them and they're in their second level job and they're doing better and their family's being taken care of, but 10 years ago they had to come for groceries, that's a private little joy that I know that I helped them a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
That got them out of a tough spot. Somebody who's working in a local big box store comes running across and hugs me and says, "Thank you." And I had to think about it, and I remember that they came and we encouraged them to get a job, and they got a job, and their life is better. You can't get that anywhere else. I mean, our volunteers are just as blessed as the families we serve because we're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you've been a mentor and an influence on people that have come through Prodisee Pantry, and you've touched any mentors in your own life that you can point to, or someone who's maybe not a mentor necessarily, but someone who's had an impact on you?
I have a hard time answering the mentor question because in the early days, it was difficult. Going back 20 years, it was a trade secret. It wasn't something that people shared. They're afraid you're going to take their donors. That's something that people don't realize about Prodisee Pantry. When we started, we did not join the United Way. They would have had us, but we didn't want to take money away from other programs that were already successful in our community. Yeah. We said we would find our own way, and we continue to operate that way. We embrace United Way. We're hand in hand. But mentoring others is really a critical part of what we do here so that the community is stronger. The more social services that work together to lift a family up, we solve problems quicker. The quicker they're back on their feet, the stronger our community is.
Yeah. And that is a good point that nobody has ever really brought up, because I think most everybody that we ask that question to, they've come up with somebody that they can point to. But yeah, if you go through something like this and you don't have really anybody to lean on or to go to, it makes it all that more important to you to be that person to someone else, which I think is great.
Yeah. Now, I take it very seriously now where we are as Prodisee Pantry. We're in year 17, maybe 18, I have to go back and do the math, that we need to help lay forth the path. Mm-hmm. We've been successful. We've had a lot of strong board members and volunteers. If I don't know something, God seems to put the right person in the building to help with that problem, to solve that problem. So it's important to me that those up and coming in social services, nonprofit or community ministries, ask for help.
Yeah.
Reach out, because I'm willing to help. There are other executive directors who are willing to help because we had to forge the path. What's unique about Baldwin County that people do not understand is most all of the nonprofits and community ministries work together to help solve the social service industry problems. That does not occur all around the country.
Yeah.
The fact that we can pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, are you going to help with the power bill? Are you going to help with this? Or do you have some counseling available? Or do you know of anybody that has any room in their shelter? All of that communication is helping to move families forward. Mm-hmm. And it was not that way everywhere.
Yeah, no doubt. So we always like to leave our listeners with a resource or two as far as books or an author or a podcast that really has had an impact on you. Do you have anybody or anything that you can point to in that regard?
I would just say, you pick up the good book, the Bible. And whenever I have a problem, I just let it open up because I feel like that page I'm supposed to read, which is a little unorthodox, but it seems to answer. And I will say that scriptures that I read 30 years ago say different things to me now. So I believe it's a living, breathing document. And so when I need answers or I need something, that's the first place I turn.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. As we get ready to wrap up our time here, there's no doubt in my mind that Prodisee Pantry will live on for years and years to come. But when Deann's time is done at Prodisee Pantry and you move on to other things, whenever that is, go tend to your sheep and that kind of thing, what do you want your legacy to be? When people think about Deann, what do you want them to say or feel?
That she did the best she could to help other people. I don't really know what that legacy will look like. I think having something like Prodisee Pantry live on for a long time is really important, that it is embraced by the community, that when my time is done, the next person comes in is embraced and will be supported in even greater bounds than I have been, so that this program will be here for families that need it.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. So, Deann, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
So we'll link the social media information and website in the show notes, but the website is ProdeseePantry.org. You can also find them on Facebook at It's About Hunger, and so be sure to check them out. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. As always, a big thanks to producer Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.